Oh, wait a minute. Good afternoon, everyone. This is John Stevenson with Nevada Partners, and we're here having yet another one of our Promise Startup Conferences panels. And today's conference panel is going to discuss entrepreneurialism, but the resilience it takes to be able to push through all the challenges that comes with it. And to my left, I've got an amazing panel to discuss all kinds of different entrepreneurial efforts, but we're going to dig deep into how they've dug through and pushed through the challenges that they face, hopefully in a way that'll be relatable to you all, and you can see how you can draw from their experience to be able to press through with your own entrepreneurial experience. So to my left, we have Breeze. And Breeze, you want to tell them about your business?
Yeah, so I own Raw Marketing Group and Social Content Masters. So we do AI inclusion and we create digital marketing strategies for people. We have a pretty big team to implement anything from media buying, advertising, all the way down to just AI employees for your business that can answer on platforms like Facebook and Instagram. On Social Content Master side, we script, film, edit, and post all the content for brands in order to grow you with a hands-off solution for social media.
Okay. And to his left, Dr. Liz.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Liz. I am the owner of Exodus Ambiance, where we stage and do staffing for flight attendants for those coming in town for local contracts. But I'm also the CEO and the mind behind Echoes of Excellence, where we offer sociological solutions to organizations, institutions, and entities, mainly in the school system, to heighten their cultural inclusiveness and awareness.
Letitia.
Hi, I am Letitia. You said it right. You did a good job.
Okay, thank you. I was worried about that. I was practicing.
I am the owner of the Best Cleaning Service. We specialize in residential and commercial cleaning services in Las Vegas and Nye County.
Dr. Frances Richards, CEO and founder of Arlene Richards Media and Communications Company. And what we do is we actually capture and document your assets and inventory your assets in the unlikely event that you have a fire, burglary, or theft. And we also capture stories. We're storytellers, and we capture your story if you have Alzheimer's or dementia. And we also ensure that your loved ones is cared for in the unlikely event. We know when individuals have Alzheimer's or dementia, they think someone is stealing from them. So we safeguard your assets, documenting it all, ensuring that it's there and that so we say we capture a piece of your mind and we give you a peace of mind by documenting your assets and your inventory, all of your assets. Thank you.
Well, pleasure having all of you. So right out of the gate, we're going to go right out of the gate, we're going to go into the deep end of the pool. We do that, don't we, Liz?
Yeah,
we go deep in early. So what I'd like to ask is, so the assumption is that no part of the entrepreneurial experience is one where you just get to coast. It's a grind, it's a hustle, it's anxieties and things that just keep you up at night that you got to think about for the next day. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, for all of you actually, what are let's pick out top three things right now that are kind of keeping you up at night saying, this can be a challenge. This is something I got to press through.
Oh, I'll go first. Can we go out of turn?
You can.
Okay. I think one thing for me when it comes to my consultant firm is such a work of passion for me that I have to remember. What keeps me up is remembering the balance between safeguarding my intellectual assets as an asset, because I just give it out. I drop the gems. Like I fill holes, I build bridges. So when I'm recognizing this school is lacking in how they implement their cultural inclusive practices, I'm like, look, we need to do this. Here's what research says. Give me your data. I just go to work, right?
Well, let me pause you on that one. Just a little bit of pushback. What you have, what you know is oftentimes worth more than what people can pay, though. How do you strike that balance? Because you've got something that you know is going to make a difference. And if you got fair market value for it, it'd be way past what the person who's going to benefit from could afford. How do you strike that balance?
I think one way to strike the balance, and then Letitia, I'll let you chime in because we were just kind of talking about balance. But one way is to just remember, bottom line, and just basically like your time is your money.
Right.
Like I am trading, not only, sure, you cannot probably afford actually what my intellect is worth.
Right.
But you have to pay for my time because that's the one and only commodity that I can never get back.
Right.
I can get back money, resources, this and that. Can never get back my time. So having to add value on my time. What am I taking my time from? and what am I willing to accept in order to be able to make that sacrifice.
Gotcha.
I think.
Okay.
That was awesome. Totally awesome. I am going to totally like piggyback off of that. Lately, I have been in the position where I need to come out of the field. I need to hire some employees.
Okay. Gotcha.
My time and my money exchange is not adding up for me.
Gotcha.
And I'm at the point now where I want to be the CEO and not the worker.
Okay.
So do you guys have any?
So and that's keeping you up because you're moving out of a space that you know into a space where you know less well. Is that the anxiety piece?
The anxiety is that my customers love me.
Okay. As well they should.
They value. So handing that over and finding people that are responsible and that I can trust to show up and get the job done.
Okay.
I want to be able to do it with my eyes closed. I'm looking for somebody that can do the job better than me.
Okay. And so what is your plan to try to identify those folks? Is it talent identification? Is it talent training? Or combination of the two? How what's your plan or what are your early thoughts? I don't call it a plan yet. What are your early thoughts as to how you can overcome that anxiety inducing hurdle?
The training aspect, definitely. I do have 2 people that are under me right now, and I hope to be able to bridge the gap.
Gotcha.
Like I want to turn them into mini me's. I'm trying to make clones right now.
Right.
And other than that, I'm a bit lost.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm lost.
No, that's fine.
I need to find them. I want to find her.
Which is why it's anxiety inducing.
Right.
Because the reason why I bring that up is because many of you in your own businesses are going to run into that challenge of when I go to hire, how do I train? And then when I train, how do I hold them accountable to where in a way that helps with the training I gave them without saying you're not meeting the standard and I got to let you go and I got to start all over again. Mm-hmm. That is an existential challenge for business owners.
Mm-hmm. For me, I was going to say, right. So the original question too is, what are those things that you're struggling with? I think that's one of the biggest pieces, right? Is training and educating your people, whether that's your customer or your employees. If you're not in the education space yet or the training space with your business, then your business and your company is still a job for you. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. So even though you're the boss of the job, you're still working for yourself and you're not really able to free yourself until you get the mindset of a trainer or an operator or somebody who can educate your people. Mm-hmm. The better and the sharper that you get with that skill, the easier it is to scale. Right. And sometimes I think, we think of it as we're trying to make a mini me, but they don't learn the same way I learn.
Right.
So learning your people using DISC and things like that to really identify what kind of personalities that you're dealing with, mm-hmm. the ways that they're able to learn, and then being able to change yourself to then teach them the way that they need to learn. Mm-hmm. That is like a whole nother process, but taking time to learn it and to really fine tune those abilities, I think is where my business is at currently. And I feel like that's for everybody, especially when you're trying to expand, because that first person that you bring in, you having friction with that person. I know we've almost all been there with somebody, even if it was like a business partner that you started with and you guys have that friction, is because you're not able to see how this person is able to learn, right? Like I was reading a book, is Super Communicators, right? Mm-hmm. And the idea is, they tell kids, do you want to be heard, helped, or hugged? Right. Okay. Sometimes we just want to be heard, and that's what I'm communicating to you about. And then you're trying to help me. It's very common with like men and women, right? Guys, we always want to help, mm-hmm. help. And girls, a lot of times they just want to be heard or hugged. And that was it. Mm-hmm. You're trying to help someone. She's like, you're not listening to anything that I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So kind of understanding where people are coming from in their communication too is something that I'm like constantly struggling and trying to refine as well. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think is a big thing, learning how to teach.
Okay, so that's what's keeping you up at night is the training component for your folks.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, Doc?
I think the biggest thing that's keeping me up at night is I'm seeing the increase in individuals with memory loss, and really capturing their story before their memory fade. Also with the fires in California, seeing how important it is for us to have all of our assets and all of our documentation. Do you have your passport and that file together? Mm-hmm. Doing a workshop around get your house in order. And so many of us don't want to get our house in order because we think it's end of life, but we don't know when the end of life is.
Right.
And so I think that's what keeps me up at night, is ensuring that I can get as many clients in and make sure their house is in order before that disaster happens.
That's really smart. And I think you that raises a topic that I'll ask for all of you though, is subsumed in that statement that you made is the idea that somehow we make the mistake of prioritizing within the time we have. We think we have more time to get to priority things like, end of life care and this, that, and the other. Could you guys speak to that? How do you all prioritize your time, knowing that in this real world example that she gave, that our time is much more finite than we realize? How do you prioritize your time? Up against that, you can start with that. How do you prioritize better with that?
And I think for me, because I've been in situations with as early as 3 years ago losing my husband. So for me, and being older and seeing a lot of younger people losing their lives, I understand that life is very precious. And so what I do is, how I prioritize my time is I live in the moment, right? So whatever I'm doing, I'm present at that moment, whether it's with family or whether it's in my business. I'm micro-focused on that. And so I think that I'm giving 100%, and all of us are not in that space. I am in that space where I can actually designate, this is all I'm going to focus on. A lot of us can't. And that's where that balance comes in.
Gotcha.
Where you have to make sure. And another thing is, I'm super organized and what is really important. And so I have it written out what is important. And so right now, besides the business being important, my mother, who's 96 years old, that's a priority. And so I have everything ranked that this trumps that. So even though I'm in the business, if my mother calls, that takes precedent over any and everything.
Gotcha. How would you advise somebody to be in the present, to think about the future?
I think the best thing for me that I found is I'm a note taker.
Okay.
So I'm a planner and
Okay.
extremely focused on, very intentional about what it is I'm doing in that moment. So I would say that if you're very clear on what it is you're trying to accomplish, I would write it down in specific steps in what needs to happen.
Gotcha.
Especially if you have multiple hats that you're managing at that time, whether it's your parents or you, that sandwich generation, you're parenting as well as caring for older family members. You have to be extremely intentional and very, very organized.
Gotcha. Letitia, how do you prioritize? Okay, go ahead.
Sure. I think for me, as far as being able to prioritize and being mindful of my time, I had to get to a place where I'm willing to trade money for time.
Right.
I have a friend who's top realtor in the Rocky Mountains, like number 1 or 2. And she was watching me kind of overwork in my business. But I was like, if I hire people, like, that's less profit when I can just do it. Like, I have the time and capacity. And she's like, you have the time and capacity, but would you be willing to buy more time by giving money? She said, all you're doing is buying time. The one thing we can never get back. You can never get time back. So I had to reframe my mind and make that a priority. I have the ability to purchase time by being able to hire someone, to train them, let them know the expectation. Of course, I want to make sure that my clients still feel supported, everything. So going through the training, but for me, it was first, in order to prioritize time, because I was literally like 9 months pregnant. And I'm like, I can do it. I got it all. And not just being in the moment, like you said. I'm like, the moment to be when baby gets here. No, enjoy that moment. You know what I mean? So realizing that, wow, the very thing they say we can never get back, time, is actually something that we can, so to speak, buy right now if we're willing to just kind of let go a little bit,
Okay. When you say let go, like letting go of the control of...
Letting go of the control. Like you said, you want clones, you want it to be just right because it's your business, it's your reputation.
That's my baby.
That's my baby. Like, I birthed that. I had the vision. I have to make sure that you can align. But I think that comes from, like I was saying, scaffolding, letting people know what you expect. And at first it might feel like micromanaging to them. Hey, I just got to make sure you don't misrepresent me. Right? I tell my children all the time, don't you ever embarrass our name. Same for my businesses. You're not going to embarrass our name.
Right.
So being able to let go of the control of, I can just do it all and then save money. But it's like, at what cost? Like, we can buy back our time and our peace if we're willing to let others who have the capacity and the skill and are coachable, allowing them to lead the way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I love what both of you guys said. For me, like you said, a big thing is organization. I'm a guy, I'm not naturally organized. So I had to learn.
Please snap your fingers.
This is me preaching right now, but I had to learn a
That's
little
my
bit
song.
about organization myself, and just practicing it every day. It's like any other skill. I'm a person that feels like any skill I can learn, period. It just takes the amount of time that it takes to learn it or to fine tune it. So I put a lot of effort in organizing my schedule and my everything, and not just on the business side, but also carving out time for family, making sure that that's on the calendar. And I think a lot of times we feel weird with that. It's like, oh man, you have your dates on the calendar, you have family time on the calendar. You should just know instinctively to do that. It's like, I'm sure that I should know instinctively, but I know that for sure if I put it on the calendar, that's me prioritizing it over everything else in that moment. And then on the flip side of that, just automating as much as I can. So those things that I have to do every single day, I'm trying to find a way to automate it, or like you're saying, to delegate it so that I can get some of my time back. Like a really easy exercise for me is they have the Warren Buffett 5-25 rule. So you take the top 25 things you're wanting to do it, prioritize it from top to bottom, what's most important. Most people instinctively, they look at that list and they want to do all 25, put maybe 5% into each of them, but you won't get anything done doing it that way. He says just ignore the bottom 20 and only focus on the top 5 till completion, then move on to the next list. And that actually forces you to go through the list and knock these things out a little bit faster. Then you can just take one of these tasks and pop it into ChatGPT. Can you break this, task into steps and how to actually get it done? And then you put a timeline on it. It's that easy now, right? Before we had to really think these things out. You had to actually use some brain power. Now you can just get all the links sent to you on where to go next, and you can get estimates on how much time it should take to get it done, all that kind of stuff.
Agreed. Letitia, how do you prioritize?
You know what?
Letitia.
First, you're right with me. I like how you think. Yeah. I do have to go and make a list. I appreciate you all, you as well, my time for my money. And then you too, end life, because there is no time. There's no expiration date on life. So, right now I'm just, I don't have anything. I'm learning. This is great. I love the conversation. You know what I mean?
That's right. One of the things as entrepreneurs, and even as a parent, when you delegate, you elevate.
Yes.
And I saw a post and it said, everyone has 24 hours. And they showed Beyonce, and then they showed an ordinary person. And someone else said that's not true. Well, exactly what you said. And as entrepreneurs,
It was a balloon.
Okay.
As
I was like, open the drawer up.
as an entrepreneur, and we have a tendency of wanting to, like we said, it's our baby. And and think about when you were in corporate America, you didn't want your boss to micromanage you, but you have to be able to give that person the flexibility to be able to learn. And sometimes when we let them, you don't want them to just be willy-nilly and do whatever, but sometimes they can come in and see what you can't see. They can see those broken windows. And so if you give them the opportunity to really fly and not operate with broken wings, you're going to get more out of them. And so when you think about finding those employees that is going to elevate your business, because you're going to delegate it to you, you're going to be able to create more money and more opportunities. So we have to be able to allow those people to fly on their own.
Yeah. One of the things I learned as a chief in the fire department, and it didn't come to me till late in my career, was that there is a diversity in the way we can see excellency. And what I mean by that is everyone's version of excellence doesn't have to look like mine. And mine didn't have to look like the next guy's. And so one of the things I learned, from a diversity perspective is the white guy from Southern Utah will have a different version of excellence than the Hispanic guy from East LA, who had a different one from the Marine who grew up in, Nebraska, to my own, whatever. And so when I learned that there were multiple ways to be excellent, it seemed to unleash a kind of a grace, for on the one side to allow them that space. And the other thing that I learned along the way, which may be useful to you all in unlocking it, is that we would often make the mistake of thinking that what we're looking at or who we're promoting or demoting or whatever, we were doing it based on meritocracy. When in reality, in many, many, many more instances than not, we were doing it on mirrorocracy. Did they mirror my values? Did they mirror my techniques? Did they mirror my style? Because it invariably, whoever looked like and sounded like and had the value system that I had, if I wasn't careful, I would elevate that person as being somebody who's more trustworthy, more accomplished, who gets it more. I wonder if that kind of thing, that epiphany that I had about being able to distinguish between mirrorocracy and meritocracy might be a beneficial, construct, in you guys' business.
As of right now, I feel that first and foremost, I've worked for 2 other small cleaning companies. And my first experience, me and that person, we made a lot of money together.
Mm-hmm.
I had never met this lady. Never, well, only over the phone.
Uh-huh.
So those transactions and that relationship was real. I did my best to make sure that I took care of her company as if it was my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that is one big thing that I'm looking for. And how I did things, she was not able to see. She did not train me. Like I said, we just had a conversation. She was like, you can clean, cool, get your credentials, let's go. And we went.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so big on that. I am just trying to create a space for my clients to flourish.
Right.
And we do service different people. So in the control situation, I don't think that I am trying to create a mirror. I just want the best for my people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And for my cleaners as well, because creating a space for them, making sure that they're safe, making sure that they're okay or they're not overwhelmed and their minds are clear so they can create another clear environment for my clear.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So, no, I'm not really big on that. And I have really been evaluating different things. Now, this other company that I work with, I have never met this lady either, and I kind of left from one and piggybacked to another.
Mm-hmm.
They run business totally different. I don't like that because I feel like we run on a merit-based situation, and I feel like I'm not an individual or I'm not treated. It's like, oh, she knows she can do it. We wake up, it's repetitive. They pay me, we go on about our business, no relationship-wise.
Right.
So I'm really big on trying to find that perfect person, and I know that it's doable. I'm not really big on how they do it. I want them just to do the best that they can.
Gotcha. Anyone else want to add to that?
I think for my team, a practice I've gotten into is telling them my vision. Here's my end goal. And then allowing them to get to it, however.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes they'll produce the outcome
Right.
and I will go, I never would have done it like that. I was thinking like this, but it meets the end goal.
Right.
It works.
Right.
And I didn't have to think twice about it. I communicated the task once, it was executed. So I think that's important what you're saying about not necessarily, yes, we want the best positive reflection of our values,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily our process.
Right.
So I think as long as the outcome is still satisfactory, our clients are pleased, we're pleased as overseers, then how they navigate that, I'm okay with them using it because they have different backgrounds, expertise, experiences. And some of my properties in Colorado, I had one person, every time she came, she had another idea on how we needed to do things in that property. I just let her do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just let her do it. I just wanted, here was my end goal, and she would just take me to new heights. And there was an opportunity where, of course, people would give feedback, different clients would give feedback. And when she would implement her ideas, it was reflected in that feedback. So I'm like, okay, it's working. So I think, like you said, allowing people to like you said, don't break their wings, don't cripple them, allow them to soar and see how high they can go. I think that's fruitful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. I always say, give them enough rope to, I know it's terrible, but hang themselves, but not give them enough rope to bind the business up and tie the business up, right? Like
Right.
you got to give them at least a little bit of room. One thing that a friend of mine, Edgar Rodriguez, man, shout out to you if you're watching this, but he just taught me a little bit more about disc training, right? And I hadn't really looked at it from the point of view that he has, because he trains executive levels on how to implement this for their business to be more understanding of their employees.
Mhm.
If you take a disc assessment for yourself, you can find the things that you're good at, the pieces of business and relationships that you'll be excellent at versus somebody else. And if you can find somebody who maybe doesn't have the exact same disc profile, they can cover the things in a business that you don't like.
Mhm.
And oftentimes they love to do those things,
Mhm.
right? But then you also got to learn how to address and talk to those people, how they accept rewards, how they accept discipline, right? Things like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But it's on paper, right? It's not something that you have to guess.
Right,
You're just
right.
looking at it on paper and you can try it. And most of the time, 9 out of 10 times, you're right on the money. So I look at that now, because then I don't have to think about the way that this feels, right? You're interviewing somebody, you're talking to them, they're giving you all of their stories, all of their sob stories, all of their best triumphs. They're giving you a resume that may or may not be real, right? Exactly. But if you know what questions to ask based off of this to get an understanding of the way that they deal with situations and the way that they feel about being addressed a specific type of way, then you can make a game plan around it. Because I'll tell you now, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I move very fast.
Mhm.
I expect everybody to move very fast. I'm high on accountability. I'm not confrontational, but I go directly to the topic. That's it. I
Right.
just want to know what's going on. If it didn't happen, I'm
Right.
not here to slap your wrist. I just want to know so that way we can
Solve
build a
it.
plan and move past it. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's just how I am. And I know some people aren't that way. And if they're not, I can still work with you and address you in a certain way that will get me to the result that I'm looking for.
Okay. Doc, you have any thoughts on the meritocracy dilemma?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And I think that as a manager, we do look at individuals that, because you believe that they've crossed all the I's and dotted all the T's, that they should be promoted. And one of the things that I've learned earlier in my career in a diversity of spaces, that you have to look, and one of my secret sauce is pulling story out and really getting to the root of who you are as a person.
Okay.
And so I'm able to see what you can't see. And that's being intuitive as a manager and not having the bias. And a lot of times we come in and we feel warm and fuzzy around that person. So we want to promote,
Mhm.
or they're going to be an ally.
Right.
But I had the tendency when I was in a management position, when I hire now, it's not based on merit, it's based on their ability. Because I'd rather you be faithful and consistent and honest with integrity than you're showing up every day and you're stabbing me in my back.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that's what I look for. Is I look at different qualities. And so in my business, and when I was in corporate, I had to follow by their rules, and individuals that I sense was not the person that should have been promoted, I would work with them knowing that wasn't the right fit, and it would eventually show. So that's what you have to be able to do as a manager, to see that instinct is like, it's something, I like this person, but it's something about them.
Mhm.
And as a business owner, whether it's and we have to be careful, even like we love our family, but we might have to give them, like, you just pick up the groceries every week.
Right.
That's your job.
Right.
Even seeing their strengths, because we want to help them, but they may not be the person that we should hire in that job. And that's what we have to stand very firm. We like this one athlete, what he did is he would give his mother a check every year, but instead of giving her a check, what he did is he gave money to a nonprofit, had the nonprofit hire his mother.
Oh.
right? So he wasn't accountable for mama spending all of his basketball money, right? Mama had worth, right?
Right.
So that's how he did it. She didn't know what he was doing, but it was a win-win situation.
Right.
And sometimes we have to do that, use creative ways to help our family and not directly give them that car that we know they're going to tear up, right? We might just say, we're going to give you some Uber
That's smart.
money, right?
That's smart.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I like her.
I know. I love that.
Think.
I want to touch on that, but I want to go back to something that John was saying and that you expanded upon, because John and I talked about it on another show, field experience. And we talked about how people can look good on paper, especially with ChatGPT. That's easy. They can do all of that. They might be able to pass this test, but there's certain things that they can't fake. Their character, right?
Mhm.
And how do you gauge that? And we talked about one solution being field experience, like bringing them on the field with you, not field experience as in what they said they did in the past and what they got their uncle to answer the phone and say, yeah, I was the manager, he did that, but actually bringing them with you. And we talked about, for example, in law enforcement. And what does that look like to, okay, we have this candidate that looks great on paper, for example, but what if we actually bring them into an area they've never been in? Let's watch how they react, how they process, how they handle it. I think it's the same kind of benefit in entrepreneurship, bringing people alongside us and making that a part of the interview process. If you could come join me and we're going to just get to work together side by side, you can watch people, you can see their reluctancy, you can kind of see what they're not saying, and it really gives you insight that they can't fake.
Right.
So I love that. But then also going back to what you said, oh, I forgot what it was I was going to touch on, because y'all are saying some great
It'll
things.
click.
Y'all are saying some great things. I didn't lost my train of thought. It'll probably come back to
Yeah.
me. But I think it's just so important that we are able to properly gauge these things, because a lot of people can look very good on paper, but they don't have the right heart.
Right.
They don't have the right morale. Or they can do this job very well and they might steal or whatever the case may be. I'm just being honest. You just have to be family. You were mentioning family and that aspect, and the thought that came to mind for me, what I do with the youth of my family at least is give them also some field experience alongside me, but opportunities where they can not only create the skill, but develop their morale and their character. So they come to different sessions and they get to basically watch me, and then they have their own ways that they get to go and implement and show what they've learned. They're getting an opportunity to show. I put my kids on payroll, but they work for it. They don't get paid because their last name is Glover and they're the children of Dr. Glover. They have to actually work right now.
Right.
And so they're building that ethic of learning. I have to be able to show my value and show my integrity. My son will come back and say, I didn't do that job, but let me do this one. Listen, you can pay me less or just pay me. No, because I asked you the first time to do something, and that's how the real world works.
Mhm.
People are not going to chase you down with opportunities. Your integrity showed the first time you said you were going to do with fidelity, and you did it. I'm sorry, the opportunity has now passed to your brother. So being able to get people to think critically that way, instead of being a part of the problem in their life where we're nurturing these bad habits that aren't good for them in corporate America or especially in anybody's business.
That's real sharp. All right. So now we are going to do a Bill and Ted Back to the Future moment kind of thing. And what that entails is this. I'm going to give you each a time machine that is one use only.
Oh, you go first.
Well, no, hold on. We're going to go in order.
You're not good at board games.
Who's been in
Straight.
business? How long have you been in business? 12 years? How long have you been in business?
Today is my 1 year anniversary.
1 year. That's awesome. 12, 1,
A decade.
10. How long?
Yeah, 8.
All right, you're first. We're going in reverse order.
Lord.
Yeah. All right.
I changed my answer.
All right. So you get to go back in time to your first day of business. And you're going to grab your past you by the lapels and you're going to shake them and say, girl, you in danger. You need to know this going forward. What is that one bit of advice that you're going to share with them? You only get one time, and you get it said and you're automatically brought back to the present. What's that one thing you're going to tell them? Tell her rather.
The one thing that I would tell her is definitely don't give away the farm.
Okay.
The advice, giving away the advice that you're worth it. Whatever you charge, you're worth it. You are enough. And I think as coming out of corporate and also coming out of higher ed, you are so used to exchanging time for money and understanding that it's totally different. So I would say definitely get paid for the value that you're bringing.
And how would you know that your past self would understand what present self is saying? How would you confirm that she got it? Would she be open? Would she have been open, you think? Well, you know her better than I do.
Well, I think it's a mindset. And gotcha. I think I would say yes, from the standpoint, I would have been working on that mindset.
Gotcha.
Reprogramming all of that stuff that I was told that I'm not good enough. I would dump it and fill it with all of those things that gotcha. I know that I am good enough. Okay. So it's about reprogramming the mindset.
All right. Dr. Liz, what you going to tell, your 10 years ago self, what's the warning you're going to give yourself from 10 years ago?
What comes to mind for me is actually something that my son said on air yesterday, and it was so profound. I would tell my younger self to remember your why.
Yes.
Because anything that I take on as a business project is never because it's necessarily lucrative. I've been an educator, so that tells you that. Like, it takes a work of heart.
Right.
It's been a work of heart and a passion. So I would tell myself, remember your why, because sometimes we can get so caught up in for example, my properties in the Rocky Mountains, I had to always plan for the slow season. And then I'm thinking about that when it's a good season. And I'm just always trying to patch these holes and get ahead. And what's the bottom line and how much do I want to make? And all of that was just overshadowing sometimes remembering my why. Because if I can tap back into my why and bring it right back to the heart, it changes how I proceed. It gives me strength when I feel like I have nothing else to pour into this, or I don't want to do this anymore. I remember one time I almost gave up. I had to really remember my why. I just was like, listen, I'm on the West Coast now. I'm just going to move on. And I had to remember, no, that's my baby. I can't abandon my baby. So I would just keep telling myself, remember your why. And sometimes your why changes. And then you have to have those critical conversations with yourself. Do I still want what I want then? And if so, how do I work backwards from that end goal? So that would probably be my advice.
Okay. Breeze, what you going to tell yourself, your day one business self?
Buy more Bitcoin, skip Ethereum, buy more XRP. No, I was fine. But yeah, if I had to go back though, for me, it's, put your own mask on before you try to help everybody else. I'm quick to see somebody's, situation, and I can see a way out for them. And so I try to help them out, plan all these things. People need to find their own way in their own time. You could be a backbone, you could be a resource, but you can't force a horse to drink. And I feel like I just spent too much time, trying to force people to drink, when in reality, had I just focused on my own projects, on my own things, they would create more trickle down, more opportunities for all these people anyway, in a faster amount of time, right? So even in just doing business partnerships, more often than not, it just made more sense for me to have my own business, you have your own business, and then we do a collaborative partnership between the businesses. Why do we automatically have to give somebody 50% in order to work together, or automatically have to cut them into the business when essentially you want that business to be your family's legacy?
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I would just create those partnerships with whatever entity that you have, because ultimately you're the one that's going to have to sleep at night and build it up. And you don't want to have to look across the aisle and say, are you in agreement with where I want my family's legacy to go?
Right. Right.
So that would be what I told myself.
Okay. And Letitia.
You guys are awesome. I would say everything that they said.
Just like that.
In that order.
Just like that.
In that order.
That's the benefit of being the last one to go back in time.
All right.
Yeah, that's the benefit.
My big thing is being able to find strength in the struggle. Turn my fears into faith, my pain to power, and find peace.
Yes.
And everything that they said as well.
Everything.
But they lined it up for me, right?
Right.
They set up the play for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So no one asked me, but I'm going to answer it anyway, because I'm going to piggyback on what you said. What I would have told myself is very similar to what you're in the same vein of what you're talking about. I would have told my day one firefighter self, don't be afraid to stand up for, advocate, or do the right thing. You will occasionally get punished for it, but you'll never regret it.
That's it.
That's good.
That's
And
it.
then in life, sometimes you will get punished for advocating for or doing the right thing, but you'll never regret it.
Right.
So I'm going to pivot now to the audience. Anyone would like questions? We'll pass the mic. All right, I'm off camera now.
Well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the same thing you did. I'm going to go back to my day one, and
Okay.
I would answer that question. I started my cleaning business. It went very well for the whole year. I had made really good income on it. I got separated, so my partnership left. Right, we moved on. One thing I wish I would have known is how to pay into unemployment. And the second thing I wish I would have known is I got sued, but I got sued personally with my name. So technically, they didn't sue me, right? Because they didn't sue my company. They sued me, which, legal matter. But those are the two things I wish I would have known before I started my company. Because not only was I not left with only savings in my bank account, but I didn't have a job right after that. I'm just barely going into the job force. So those like the really things that I wish, like, now I'm telling people, like, make sure you have your business, but also do your 401k, your retirement, focus on that, and also pay into your unemployment, because if something happens, knock on wood, it's not, but if it does, you have somewhere to fall. And your unemployment right money, that's your money. But I wish I was taught that, and I wasn't. But that was my fault, right? I didn't get really well educated, and it's entrepreneurship world and small business, and growing and developing, it's a learning process, and it's something that now I'm not only learning, but I'm also like telling people and telling them, like, hey, that has happened to me, and I don't want it to happen to anyone in this room, because it's the worst feeling ever.
And that actually raises a good question that I'm gonna put back to the panel. So I'm gonna give you one more chance to go back to the past. Because what she's speaking to is the security of how you establish your business in the first place. Would you have any advice going back to your old self to say, look, get more insurance, get less insurance, buy more of this, buy less of that? What kind of foundational things about your business would you go back and tell your I'm gonna start with you. Now you're first. Yeah. You're gonna go back. You're gonna go back and tell yourself, do this to be more foundationally stable or safe in your business.
Well, first and foremost, our payroll. This is a good story. At first, we were paying through Cash App and Zelle because it was convenient for our cleaners, but we do hire independent contractors.
Okay.
With me working with the other companies, I learned one lady had a app called Gusto. And so, I told my sister about it. Like, we got to get it. That's my president. Like, she's the power behind everything. My idea, she helped me get things executed properly. So, I was kind of scared because of paying. I also had to pay for my CMR and all of that, but it was worth it. So besides paying for Gusto and having my payroll done, it saves me time. But I would have also did more legal.
So
I would have had a lawyer.
What was that? So you would have given yourself more legal, a more foundational legal base,
right,
at the beginning of your company.
I just signed with somebody recently, but yeah, I should have been did that. Running late.
Okay, and your turn.
Yeah.
All right. Foundational elements. You go back. You get to go back. I'm giving you a part two.
Skip NFTs. All right, no, but for me, I think it's a lot of the same, right? Just foundational elements for the business. For one, just making kind of investment accounts for myself in the business early. Those are things that I think of right away. Like you were saying, softwares like Gusto to be able to take care of payroll. I would have gotten a virtual assistant, I think, earlier.
I need one right now.
Yeah, like so right now I have like 12 virtual assistants. I have one though recently that we're using as like our administrative virtual assistant. That's the one that's like by my side that I have doing everything. But just having her work from Monday through Friday from 11 to 3, it's like $600 a month. And she just does everything. And I just talk to her on WhatsApp. I can record a message and she just automatically hops in and does things. That is something I just wish I had. I was the same, like you said, I could just save some of the money. I could do this myself. But once I actually got that experience, I'm like, man, I should have been doing this the whole time. This was
Right.
where the biggest investment should have gone early on, because now there can be two of me,
Gotcha.
because
So
that's it.
early technical adoption, early technology adoption.
Exactly. It took us a little bit to automate as many things as we do now. So I think that's a part of it, right? I had to learn those skills in order to be able to implement them. But when somebody tells you something, like something that will help your business, and you wait forever to activate on it, that's like,
It's
stepping
negligence.
on God's toes real quick just to,
Yeah,
right? So I would say just check out things that people are talking about. If they see those opportunities, you don't have to jump on them, but just check them out, do your own research. And if it looks like it's something that's viable, just jump on it.
Gotcha.
Dollar cost average it out, right? Put some money into it, see what it can turn into.
Right.
You know?
That's smart. Dr. Liz?
I think two things that come to mind for me. One, like we heard in the audience, just from the legal aspect, securing, even if it's going through like Legal Shield, they charge $49 a month, and you have these legal, lawyers, attorneys that you can consult with, run contracts by. You can give them a contract before you sign it and say, are there any loopholes? Yes, nowadays you can upload things in a chat GPT, but I've also identified, just as a researcher and an academic and a scholar, some biases in chat GPT. So you have to be mindful of just relying so much on the technology and sometimes get some actual brains behind it. But I would definitely secure something similar to, and I'm not a representative, but something like that. Oh, well, she is. See her.
I don't want to get all the way into it for me. Thank you.
But the second thing, my brother was in the same industry I was in before me. My younger brother, he's my little big brother. And when I got my first property, he told me, this is just nice. This is staged beautifully. It looks just like your house. I said, doesn't it? I wanted it to mimic me, mirror me. He said, how much you put into it? And I told him, and he said, you are a fool. So you are starting. He didn't say it that way, but he said, you are starting your business thousands of dollars in debt. He said, you made it what you would live in. These people aren't living here. They're like passing through for their careers and such. He said, all you needed was the basic. That's all I did. And I was like, oh, but it wasn't going to feel good to me if it was too basic. And he said, but the money would feel good.
Right.
You put it all. So then my second property, I thought different. I literally had that property up probably within a half of a day, fully furnished and everything, for like less than $1,000, because I went to the thrift store and I didn't even know you can buy furniture at the thrift store. And I went and got like couches, tables, everything. And then the property was live, and I didn't put thousands of dollars nor time, because when you buy all that new stuff, now you got to build it, right? I didn't have to do any of that. I just went and paid for it, went on something like TaskRabbit to pay somebody with a truck to bring from point A to point B, and it was done. So I would say, don't overthink it. Do what the bottom line is, so that you're not starting your company just so in the red. Eventually you can add things to make it even better. But for now, think, what do people need? What will make them come here to my property because they say it has everything I need? They're not going to say it has everything I want, because people's wants are different. So I was catering it to look like something I would live in. I never lived in it, I'm
coming.
All right.
I'm coming. I'm coming. That. Go ahead.
Oh, because Doc, let her go last.
And I think ditto. And when you go to all the training, starting a business, they'll tell you legal is so important. And as small business owners and emerging business, diverse businesses, the legal piece can be a little bit overwhelming. And when you're looking at all the expenses, one of the things that I would say is really access to capital. And I would say give myself a longer runway. And so those that are doing the 9 to grind, you have your job is your investors. Take advantage of that. It's not your job. They're your investors. They're investing in your business. And it's all about your frame of mind. And so I would say to you, if you want to be that entrepreneur, or you're doing the side hustle and the 9 to grind, make sure that you have a longer runway when you're ready to pivot full time. So that's what I would say. And we know that as diverse and emerging businesses, we have to be very creative with access to capital. So I would say that look at those strategies so it's really around legal and your financial piece,
That's
I would
smart.
say.
That's smart. Any other, yes. All right. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, I'm on my way up. Well, you got to be on my phone. Yeah.
Simple question. How much money did you guys have when you guys started your business?
I had $0. I had a dry bone experience. I was wiped of everything that I had, and somebody let me use their cleaning supplies to get back on. So you don't have to have anything.
I think I had $0 to spare. Like I had my regular, I'm a professor across the nation. So I had that, but all that money was allocated for this, right? I didn't have excess to put into the business. That's why I'm gonna say 0 to spare. So I think a lot for me was relying on like business credit opportunities with credit unions. Dealing with credit unions versus bank is very different. That's something worth researching. But I dealt with a credit union that was willing to give me credit for each of my businesses, actually. And that helped a lot. I had to just, of course, be smart with how I used it, because with credit, there's interest. So be careful of, I'm not going to say a particular one, but there's this real nice gold card. It's like titanium and it makes all the sounds. And it has a $0, not $0. There's no credit limit. It's just like endless. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, let me get that. You need to understand the credit that you're getting into, because what I didn't know at first, and it was in the terms, but they expect you not to read it, right? All I saw was no credit limit. But whatever you spend, you have to pay back in 30 days. I could have went and bought a $40,000 car on that credit card, but I would have had to pay $40,000 in 30 days. So just being financially responsible of the decisions that you're making, really doing the research and relying on word of mouth too, because I can research all the terms on their website, right? But the language may not be digestible, or, what am I missing? But if we're asking in the right circles, even getting in different entrepreneur group circles, coming to events such as this, Facebook, word of mouth, and asking people, what's your experience with this credit card? What were the pros? What were the cons? And what does work? Continuing to draw in that word of mouth.
Man, $1 and a dream. Like that was my whole business experience was me just investing in my own skill set. So I've always believed heavily in that anyway. So anything that I wanted to learn, I was gonna find a way to get into it, even if it was the most difficult. Like I went to Florida for probably 3 years and learned how to do direct sales. So did door to door, did B2B, and these are not easy things to master, but I got really good at it. So much so that I could just walk up to people, strike a conversation, put them in this frame of mind, and then be able to sell them something. Right. So I believe that, when you don't have the money, that's the next best investment that you can make. Right. It's just in your skill set, because you should be able to sell your skill set, commoditize your skill set if you've put enough time into it. So that would be my only thing. And like you guys have already spoke on, that's another one. If I could go back, I would tell myself, get your credit right early, right? Learn about credit early, learn about business funding, business credit early, and different ways of getting funding. Because it's a fallacy that we have. Like we should be spending our own money and bootstrapping our business versus using somebody else's money to build it, just because we're scared of credit card debt. We're scared of interest. We're scared of these things. But like the fear is the reality that you live in when you're struggling for years on top of years on top of years, when that could be alleviated right now, putting yourself into a perfect mindset, a positive mindset to be able to create from your brain the best things that you've ever done. Yeah, you can't create from a place of fear and scarcity. It doesn't work like that. So if you can get yourself out of that just by having more wiggle room, you'll find the money, you'll find the profits way faster than you think.
Absolutely. And I think we can summarize it, all of us. We bootstrapped the business. And so when I started my business, I was working a 9 to grind. And I had a husband at the time who has since transitioned, passed away. So that it was like had room to play with, but I didn't have specifically like a friend and family rounds or venture capitalists, none of that. It was pretty much bootstrapping. And what you were saying, definitely read the fine print. And starting, many years ago, things are a lot different, because even if you asking people around you, you can easily do a research and Google and read the reviews and get an assessment of, is this a credit card or something that I should or should not do? The other thing, back to when you said, I find as diverse businesses, we do not, one, we don't delegate fast enough and hire people because we look at more expense. We do operate from a level of fear, which you can't run a business. It's all about the risk. It's a lot of risk and rewards. But the other piece on that is, it is so important, that capital, because that's faster you can scale and grow when you're not operating from a deficit and you have more money. But you don't want to overextend yourself where you're stressed out. And one of the pieces that above all things is definitely, it's about mental wellness and entrepreneurship. Take care of your mental wellness and know your capacity of what's stressing you out. And in this environment that we're in now, everyone is super sensitive. Everyone is on high alert. Everyone is stressed out. So you want to make sure that you're not causing your internal stress onto your little kids or your husband or whatever. So take care of your own mental wellness. And if you feel that you have to step back or step away, don't be afraid to do that. But you go fast further if you have more capital, but you want to do your research. And one thing that I told my son, who's an entrepreneur, and his wife is, she doesn't like to borrow. She doesn't believe in debt. But one thing that I told them, when you have the ability, you want to borrow when you can. It's better to have and don't need than need and don't have. And so I was telling him, when he had 5 streams of income, that's when he should have went and got a line of credit. So you're sitting on $500,000 worth of line of credit, and all you're doing is spending $1,000 a month to keep that line open, because you can pay back that $1,000 even from that 500,000. But see, when you're down to zero and you have 5 mouths to feed, and then you lose all your streams of income, now you can't borrow. So you borrow when you can, and you keep money as a cushion. So then now you're not operating from a level of scarcity, but you're empowered and operating from a level of power, and you can propel.
Absolutely.
Sorry, but I just wanted to say too, like training your people and like actually having staff too, it gives you a cushion to be able to grow your team. Nobody wants to look at their staff and say, I don't have the money to pay you. That's terrible. That's terrible. I don't know if you've ever had a job that told you that and you waited months to get your paycheck, but those situations are because they don't have the funds behind the scenes. So just get that cushion.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Alan Cruz. I've been a business owner for 2 years now. I do have a question, but I want to say how much I appreciate the conversation around finances. When I first came here for the first startup conference in December, that was the big takeaway that kind of hit me about letting go of scarcity, and I think being able to educate myself on my own finances. So it's been a journey for me over the last 2 months, especially now, as I've been working on building and scaling a content marketing and writing business. So I really appreciate all of you being vulnerable and open about these conversations, because I think especially as diverse entrepreneurs in our backgrounds, we often come from places where we grew up with those around us who were afraid of money, saw it as a bad thing. That was my case, at least, how I grew up. So it's been nice to be in an environment where people can be more open and have these conversations openly. We can challenge each other to embrace that discomfort. My question was more about how you structure your goals and intentions for your business. I know that I've been learning my own process of how to be intentional, like with every single year, every quarter, every single month. And it feels like there's always a million things that you can do, a direction that you can take in your business. But obviously you have to zero in on a few intentions and goals to really get that going. And so I'm curious to hear about what's your process and your framework that's worked for you so far in being intentional. Do you do yearly goals? Do you do quarterly goals? Are they monthly goals? How do you identify that in the stage of your business that you're in?
Yeah. For me, I just reverse engineer a specific amount of time. So I look 5 years out and I see where I want to be in 5 years. Then I see where I want to be in 3, then 1. And then if I'm just looking at this year, like for me, I made a calendar in my house to where it's the entire year on one sheet of paper. TikTok made me do it, right? So we made this calendar and now I can see the entire year and how much time you actually don't have, because it feels like, oh man, 365 days. But if you take Christmas out, you take Thanksgiving out, you take your birthday out, you take out the conventions that you're going to, you take out certain vacations that you're going to have, it really makes this, topography map of things that you have to do and spaces that you have to fill. And so what I'll do is I break that down into quarters, break that down into a week. And then every Sunday I just go to the office and I take maybe, 2 hours, 3 hours of time to plan out my week so that I know what's going on and what the actual goal is for the week, or the handful of goals, right? I'm talking about that 525, whatever those top 5 things are, I'm trying to get them done this week if possible. And I'm looking to make a schedule around having those done. So I have it pushed out that far. Now, granted, in 5 years, some of that stuff can change, but at least if you know where you're going, you can kind of stay on track easier, but focus on the day-to-day.
I think for me, I definitely set yearly goals. I can't say I go 5 years out because just as a believer, God's always taking me on a journey. So I at least start with the yearly goal, and then I try to break that down quarterly and then monthly. But I also have to, in order to do that, I live by my calendar. Like if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. I don't care if I told you yes. Did you watch me put it on the calendar? I have to do that because it keeps me on task with making sure that I meet those milestones while also navigating the fact that I'm a community activist, while also navigating that I'm a mom of half a dozen. I have to make sure that I am orbiting equally around these things in a way that, yes, keeps my businesses afloat, but these things need to feel afloat too. So I try to be very intentional and create that time, like you said, about here's where I'm sitting down and I'm doing this. And it is non-negotiable because sometimes being an entrepreneur, something else might come up and I'm like, I can do that because I can do that later. No. I have to stop negotiating on this thing that will elevate my business instead of looking at it like, well, because I'm running it, I can be flexible. I can just move that. I need to look at it like, no, I cannot. I have to commit this time. So I break it down yearly, quarterly, and really live by my calendar.
I am going to tell the truth. I procrastinate. I have to go by my calendar. I did go and buy a 5-year calendar, and 5 years out there on Amazon, like $10. With the 5 years, that is designed for me time. I feel like if I have something to look forward to, like my vacations, big vacations, then that keeps me going. On a monthly, well, I do quarterly as well. And then weekly, I meet with a team, 2 different teams, to go over what needs to be done, our accomplishments, and that's my higher up team and my mentors. And then monthly with my cleaners. So all of that. And then we also have a timeline. And I need to look at my timeline. I show everybody my timeline because that's my let's go. I can say, let's go. We did this. This is what it's this short time because I've only been in business for a year. And accomplishments have been real. Growth has been real. But the reminder sometimes is what we need to keep us going. Right.
Yeah.
What I do is every November, I do my, I call it a dreams list. So what do I want to accomplish in 2025? And so it's very simple. It's no more than 5 items. And so I write it down, and then I actually mail it to myself, and I don't open it till a year later. But those goals are also put somewhere where I know what it is that I want to accomplish. That's one way. And those are big dreams. And I see, did I accomplish it? And I open it within a year. And then what I do is I do have a goal for the entire year, but I break it down in quarters. And I make sure that it's 3 things I'm doing within that quarter. So let's say if I've accomplished one thing the first quarter, then I pull up another item for the remainder of the quarter. But let's say that out of the 3 things that I'm doing in that quarter, if I didn't finish those, it moves to the next quarter. But I'm very intentional, and I'm working in the now and not trying to focus on 2 years or 5 years from now. And so I use my dream for the longer vision, and then I use the smaller quarters for the goals.
There's one quick thing I forgot to say that really is most helpful to me. Accountability partners.
Yes.
I have to have them because I will. Yeah, I do the planning, but I'll procrastinate too if I'm not careful. But I have accountability partners. We have a project plan on an Excel sheet, and those who are part of that project, and it's literally broken down, milestone 1, 2, 3, and those milestones are weeks, and this is what we have to do. And we'll just shade in that cell when it's done, and we meet weekly so we see where we are with completion. And I know if I was dragging my feet for 6 days and 23 hours, that last hour before I got to meet with them, I bet you my cells will be shaded in. And then they're like, you're on top of it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But because I'm meeting with you, it makes me. But I also have had just more unofficially an accountability partner, my best friend who passed away now. But we would meet up and we would talk a little bit and work a whole lot. I am against meeting just to meet.
Right.
So we would go to Starbucks. We do our thing as girls for like an hour or two, and then we would grind like 6 hours, 7 hours. But something about her having her laptop right there, because I'll get off task. Like I was that kid in school. They'd be like, Miss Johnson, turn around. You're distracting others. But with her laptop up, I'm like, okay, I need to stay on my laptop. And I'm like peeking over her. It's like, I gotta stay. But I needed that visual because otherwise I just play too much. I play all day. So I have to have those accountability measures.
A couple of things for those that are entrepreneurs. The biggest takeaway is your health is your wealth. And if you don't have your health, you won't get your wealth. And I'm seeing younger people, they are really compromised with their health and they're compromised with their mental wellness. Put on your calendar, prioritize, if you don't do anything else, your physical health. Make sure you know your numbers, because if you don't, it's going to impact you in a big way. Another one, when you talked about the accountability partner, and I heard someone talk about, procrastination. Let's say that you do procrastinate and a strategy, and you don't have a business partner or accountability partner. You can do what's called chunking. And what that is you set your alarm for an hour and you set your phone on do not disturb and you work for an hour or 30 minutes. And if you have a child that have ADHD or cannot focus, you do that in increments of 15 minutes. And that's another thing that you want to do. Manage your children on this social media. Make sure they shut it down. Make sure you shut it down. Make sure that you are off your social media an hour to 2 hours before you go to bed. Have no electronics, no lights, and all of that stuff near you, because you have to make sure you're getting sleep. Sleep is as important as water. And so you want to prioritize your health with your sleep, with the water, and manage your social media time. You're not going to die if you unplug. Trust me, you will survive.
And then on the flip side of that, another one is your morning routines. So I think something else that we do is we wake up and hop right into the phone. That's like devastation to your brain, right? There was this phrase that it's like your inbox is a goal sheet for everybody else's ideas. Like everybody that's talking to you on your inbox when you're on iMessage or whatever, they have their plans, they have their ideas, and they're talking to you about them. If you go straight into the inbox as soon as you wake up, you're now programmed with everybody else's thoughts right away before you get to orient your own thoughts. And that is like the goofiest thing that you could possibly do versus actually comprehending what you need to do for a morning routine. When you wake up, that's not how your body is going to be for the remainder of the day. So allowing yourself to get your soul and your chest at rest, so then you can figure out what you need to focus on for the day and start to set yourself up for a good day. That's super important. It takes 1 hour, you know? So that's like the opposite of what she's saying, right? Go to sleep without it, wake up without it. Then you can get into the day once you formulate your thoughts.
And let me say something. And I'm a big proponent as a grandmother for children. A lot of us parents, we're afraid to parent our kids. Our kids are spending too much time on social media. And if you notice, like Zuckerberg and all of those people, no, really, if you do your research, all of those tech people, they did not let their children, Zuckerberg, they don't let their children be on social media. But why are we letting our kids consume all of that? And so if they're having problems concentrating in school, you want to limit. I'm not telling you to deprive them of it, because we don't need any accidents, because these kids are going crazy if you take their stuff away. But I'm saying you have to be the parent and monitor what they're doing. You have to go back to parenting, right? And make sure that they're mine, and it's a correlation between all of this technology, and younger people are going into, I'm into brain health, Alzheimer's and dementia. And they don't know how to manage emotions. That the lack of emotional intelligence, and why your kid is going from 0 to 100 when you tell them to pick up that bread they dropped on the floor. And they can't manage because you haven't taught them emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
The 2024 Oxford's word of the year, Oxford Dictionary, was brain rot, for these reasons.
Yeah.
And one study said that we're at the point where our average attention span is 8 seconds.
And that's generous.
A goldfish is 9 seconds.
Yeah.
So when you put it into perspective and we're bringing it back to entrepreneurship, if we are overstimulated, and I know it feels like, take a day or two off social media, we have to stay relevant. Like businesses a lot of times thrive off that. We can schedule posts. It's okay to take a few hours, schedule everything for the week, because I know on Sunday and Monday, I'm not getting on. I need to deprogram. I need not to suffer from brain rot or overstimulation, because I'm looking at what she's doing with her business, and he doing, and they both lying, you know. So we have to just be mindful. These things socialize and influence us.
Yeah. All right. This has been a great conversation. Yeah. Great thoughts, great insights. Appreciate all of you for this incredible conversation. I assume you all enjoyed the conversation. Good. Everyone got something out of it? Exactly. All right. Well, all right. One more question then. One more question. All right.
So about social media, I was following this entrepreneur, and his story was very, it was motivating me. He said, okay, I was poor. I started my business selling and stuff. In Chile, he moved from Venezuela. Well, and I was like, wow. And he's like a millionaire. He's showing like all this luxury and stuff. And it was a whole lie. It was fabricated. So sometimes in social media, you don't know if it's true or not. Like, and I see all these people telling us news, and these kids consuming the news as it is.
Right.
So it's very dangerous. And I was thinking, now that you're mentioning, then I was thinking, like, how we're gonna know what is true or not, like all the reality is being distortion by all these people. So, and it's sad. Because they were, I don't know, when TikTok came out, it was like, oh, it's more real than Instagram, because the old Instagram was like just showing off what you have, but it's not true. At the end of the day, 60% I think is fake.
Yeah.
And other people just faking. Like I saw this other lady saying, I'm making this box for my daughter-in-law, and she put a lot of expensive things. And then other people say it was the whole lie. She didn't put like that the box that she was supposedly on video. It was a lie. She didn't give it to her.
People
So
they
like you don't know anymore.
yeah, people they rely
Thank you for
on
that.
social media in order to create ideas. So that's one thing I've seen. People that get on social media and they're consuming other people's ideas before they form their own thought on it. So that's one thing. If you hear a story, I would wait before you go into the comments, wait before you hear everything else. Just like process what you would think directly from hearing this story before you go into what 100 other people thought about it. Because literally one person that put a terrible opinion that just got pinned to the top now is the opinion of everybody else, 1,000 other people, and none of them are thinking critically about the situation. And really, if you like sometimes, and especially, and I'm not going to get super political, but a lot of people, they'll jump into even going toward things that don't benefit them at all because a majority of the people around them say that it makes sense. And it's like, not everything has to, right? Right. There's some things that are right. There's some things that are wrong, but there's some things that are just also not for you, and that's okay. So, but that was, I'm sorry. I mean,
No, you're good. No, you answered your question.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to it.
And I know,
Okay.
I know we have to go one thing too. If you find that you're impacted with your mental wellness, please turn off the news. You know what you want to do. You want to be informed, aware, but not absorbed, right? So if you're absorbed, you want to be aware, and there's ways you can be aware without keeping your eyes on it. You want to be aware, but not absorbed. Thank you.
All right. Well, Jay, we're going to do this. All right. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful discussion. Clearly, we have another topic to address. Then we need to bring up the topic of the sociological and psychological effects of social media, with child rearing.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a topic we need to bring up. And so, if you wouldn't mind, we can hustle up some professors, and we need to talk about that because clearly that's on top of mind with everyone. Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is another Nevada Partner Stream. Thank you all for attending and listening. Appreciate you all. Thank you.